Okay, so I want to take a moment to say hello to our audience, everyone who's watching how to live stream on YouTube. Uh, Ben Stovall is our teacher, and Ben, you've got some experience doing this professionally. What we'd like to cover is really just the getting started, the basics. Um, Let me go ahead and take a look at our outline here. Just to pull that up. So we developed this course. We're really looking at three main areas. One is around the actual planning of the live stream event, which kind of goes everything from the technical to the human. One is actually running a stream event, and the last one is how to market it out. So those were some of the categories. Let me pull up the Twitter feed here and see, getting some responses. So Ben, if you can tell us, just give us a little background about how you started live streaming and how you found it to be valuable to you or your client.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Benjamin Stovall. I'm a video producer at a global financial company, and I've been in audio and video for probably 14 years. I minored in film and video and majored in information technology, so I have a pretty good mix of understanding hardware, software, video and audio equipment for both pre and post production. And that's pretty much how I got exposed to video. And a lot of tentpole events that were taking place, uh, really wanted to leverage those and use them to the largest degree to get the largest impact that we could from those events. And so one of the things I began doing is using Accordant, which is now part of Cisco, to live stream events. And that was my first taste probably about 5 years ago is when I really started getting to the thick of the live streaming, and it really made a big impact. We just saw so much more engagement, and so from there I just began to explore all the different platforms, trying to understand them. And when YouTube, who's bought by Google, when Google started using the YouTube platform and then delved into the live streaming, which made complete sense, I was all over it, and I had to find out how it could be utilized. And I think it's just really exciting, the technology that is afforded to everyone who is able to be a verified user on YouTube in good standing, who can now use this live streaming support. Definitely, you want to take advantage of it.
Cool. Thanks, Ben, for that nice introduction. And so we'll start taking questions from the people who are watching. We do have a good number now watching. So let's just start with the basics. What are some of the basic things that people need to consider when they're live streaming for the first time? Imagine no one's done it before. What do they need to get in order?
That's a great question, Mike. So one of the things that I would stress is that you want to make your event stand out from the crowd. That doesn't necessarily mean being flashy, but what it does mean is that you want to make sure that you have good content first and foremost, and you want to make sure that your video and your audio quality are the best that they can be. And there are a lot of poorly planned and shot live streamed events, and the world doesn't need any more. So don't make yours one of them. Follow some simple rules, and you can stand out from the pack. And the most important rule, I think, is just to keep your audience engaged. Regardless of how good you may look or sound, if your content is not compelling, you're going to lose your audience. That having been said, the pre-production work is more important in many ways than the actual event itself. What do you do to prepare for that event? You want to make sure that there are going to be people that show up to the event. There's so many things to this, but you're going to have to get organized. You're going to have to start inviting people to the event. You're going to have to promote the event. You want to use all the social media you can, Twitter, even Flickr. A lot of people might be confused by that, but there's a lot of people on Flickr out looking at photos. So if you have content related that you can put photographically out there, you want to put it out there so that your name or your company is linked in every way possible through social media, through, of course, YouTube, through LinkedIn, everything that you can do. You want to optimize it. You want to make sure that you've got the right bandwidth. You don't want to get on a feed and have lots of problems with people dropping and having speed or too much lag or delay issues. So you got to make sure that you've optimized for the bandwidth, and then you've got to communicate post event. It's not just after the event's done, you're done. You got to keep that momentum that you've generated going. So you want to communicate post-event, and you want to have continued communication so people will come back and recognize you as a brand.
Cool. That's really helpful context for just what it entails, because I think some people just be sort of getting stumbled by the technical and not the additional stuff in terms of planning and marketing. So on the technical side, though, I think one main a lot of people have is, what is the equipment that they're going to need here to live stream, and how is live streaming different from what we're doing, which is broadcasting a Google Hangout, for example.
Right. Well, let's talk about the equipment first. You're definitely not going to want to use an embedded microphone or embedded camera. You want to have a separate camera. You want something that does a minimum of 720p HD to get that best quality that you can get. I could get a little bit more into the cameras, but I want to show the differences between Google Hangouts, what we're doing right now, and YouTube Live, and I'll circle back with the different cameras that you might be able to use or want to use. For one thing, if someone looked at this and said, and let me also mention for the microphone portion of this, you'll notice I'm using a professional microphone right now. It's not that you have to. You can use a nice USB microphone, but what you don't want to use is something just over the top cheap. Rise to the occasion and get the gear that you're actually going to need. But when we talk about YouTube Live versus Google Plus Hangouts, some major differences between them. YouTube Live, it allows for advanced customization. It gives you, if you're a professional, a lot of flexibility, or if you're an advanced creator, it gives you a lot of flexibility. You can utilize multiple professional cameras with YouTube Live. For instance, if you're using Wirecast for your encoder, I hope I'm not losing too many people, but you need an encoder. YouTube Live allows for you to choose Wirecast, Telescreen's Wirecast, and that will allow you to use capture cards. And those capture cards have outputs or inputs in your computer that you'll be able to plug professional cameras into and professional audio equipment. Going on, you can set up and you can run your own preferred encoding hardware with full redundancy on YouTube Live. And when I say redundancy, I mean you can utilize a backup server. So if your stream gets interrupted for any reason, it's a failover. It'll fall to the other server. That's not something you can do with Google Hangouts.
Ben, I'm going to jump in there and just ask you a few more questions here. So some of the benefits are multiple professional cameras, and then with wirecasting and capture cards, what does all that give us a little bit more detail?
Okay, sorry, I'm going a little too fast for you here. So when we're talking about the encoding, to encode the videos that you're going to be live streaming, you're going to have to use a third-party software to do so. And one of those options that YouTube allows you to use is called Wirecast. It's by a company called Telestream. And with this wirecasting software, it gives you a lot of flexibility over the video. It gives you customization of bit rates, so you can choose your streaming resolutions. It gives you monetization ability that you don't have otherwise. for mid-roll ads and pre-roll ads. If you don't know what a pre-roll ad is, anytime you clicked on a YouTube video and you had to wait until that ad got done playing, and then you could see the little box pop up and say you could skip ad 4, 3, 2. That's a pre-roll ad. So Wirecast allows you to do that, and in the midst of the broadcast, custom thumbnails, all kind of different branding. So what Wirecast allows you to do is interface with professional gear and to be able to use many customizable features. Whereas Google Hangouts, on the other hand, it's really a simple setup. You're going to be clicking on one thing, it starts, it takes you to Google Hangouts over air, and it's very stripped down compared to YouTube Live. It's good for what it does, though. Conversations like we're having right now. It's a very good conversational tool to help communicate with speakers in different locations.
And tell us a little bit about let's case study here. So let's say I want to live stream a presentation, or want to live stream as you have somebody providing information. What do you need to do on the preparation side for the person who to be on camera, and how do you kind of prep them to be ready to live stream?
Well, could you be a little more specific about what you mean? Are you looking for?
Yeah, so some people would do, you know, an outline or a script, or, you know, how do you kind of keep people engaged through a live stream? You talk the importance of engagement. So
Yes.
what are your techniques for the talent or the on camera to make sure that they're able to do that? Because I think that's an important point.
I completely agree with you, and that's where you don't want to have just yourself doing these events if you can help it. This is where collaboration really pays off, and having a team really pays off. And if there's someone who's really good with directing people that you can utilize, I highly suggest it if you don't have that kind of experience, because it's a bit of psychology involved in getting the best performances out of people. And depending on who it is that's going to be performing, they may have never done anything live in their life, and it can be really intimidating. So I don't know if you've heard of a green room, but in the industry, we have green rooms where we can get people relaxed. We can brief them, give them the agenda about what they're going to be talking about, what they're going to be doing. It just kind of, you know, you get them a cup of coffee or some tea, you sit them down and you talk to them and explain what's going to be happening. If in some instances you're going to be using a teleprompter, you want to get somebody to practice using that teleprompter before you roll. Teleprompters can be hard things to do for as they're scrolling along and people are trying to keep up with it. So you want to give them a little chance to practice something like that as well. So it's just some things to keep in mind before you do go live on the air.
Okay. Let's go back just to the take the outline. So how do you actually run a live stream? You know, a quick setup versus a custom setup. How do you execute this thing? What are the steps?
All right. Well, I think I should probably try to share my screen on this one, just to give you a really quick overview of how you can get going with this. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Can you see that?
We got it.
Okay. I don't know how clear that is for you, but hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm at YouTube right now in my channel. And so basically all you want to do is get to your video manager, but you don't see it in this view. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on My Channel, and then what you'll notice is over your banner here there's a video manager. You can click on that. So once you go to the video manager, now you can see where your live events are. But before I do that, I want to make sure that it's enabled in your account. I've got mine enabled, but you may not. So let's come on down to channel. And when you look at this, you see your features and what's enabled and what's not. Now you'll see I don't have monetization enabled. This is what you'd see if you didn't have live events enabled. Once you enable it though, and you verify that you're in good standing, you followed all the community guidelines and you haven't violated any copyright rules, then this will turn green to let you know live events is there. So when you come to your video manager, you'll now see a live events listed. So when you click on the live events section, this is where you get the screen where you can see what's live now, what's going to be upcoming, and any completed live events you did that are archived. But we're going to go ahead and click on a new live event. So when I click here, and you see my past one, I'm going to go ahead and delete that out. This is where you just fill in the basic information, give it a title, let's say Hangouts live event, and I'm not going to actually finish all of this because my webcam is tied up with Google Hangouts right now. It probably won't play nice if I try to actually stream this, but I'll get you to a good point. So this is where you would determine when is it going to start and when is it going to end. And you can see that they've given you increments, but you can go ahead and type anything in you want and it'll take it. Here's in the description. You want to make sure that you give it a good description because people are going to be searching on these things, and this is how you get discoverable. You also want to put in meta tags. They give you some suggested tags that you could use, but you can just type in your own and put in your own tags as well. So right now, I'm going to keep this private because I don't want it to actually go out to the world, so I'll leave it there like that. And then you have a choice. Is this going to be a custom or is this going to be quick? And what does that mean? Well, what that basically means is what we're doing right now, Hangouts on air. If you do this quick, it's going to utilize the Hangouts on air, and you'll be streaming, but you won't have as many features as are afforded you under custom. So I'm going to go ahead and do custom, and then I'm going to go ahead and say create event. I did not go to the advanced tab for time, but there's a lot of stuff under there that during the course I'll definitely delve into. But this gets you to the screen for the cameras, and you have the ability to add multiple cameras depending on the version of the software you're using. But I spoke a little bit earlier about Wirecast. This is where this comes into play. You want to upload a thumbnail. It's got to be 1280 by 720 and no bigger than 2 megs. You can create it custom. This is also a great point for advertising. You might want to put some information in there for advertising because this is where you can promote this video with your created thumbnail before the event ever happens, so people can come to your page and they see whatever thumbnail you put up there with any information you put on it. And so we're going to go now to the bit rate. This is where you would select your bit rate. You can do a custom bit rate. I'm not going to do that, but what that's for is if you wanted to reuse the same one over and over and over, you can give it a name and customize it into your own. You don't have to keep doing it from scratch. But for this, we're going to do basic. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to select a bit rate. Now, how do I know which bit rate to select? Well, there's a rule, and that's basically whatever you're streaming, you want to have a 20% overhead, whatever your streaming capability is. And you can actually go out to speedtest.net, excuse me, and you can see that my upload speed is around 5 megabits. So that's 5,000 kilobits. When I think about that, then I know 20% overhead puts me at about 4,000. This is a good range, 1,500 to 4,000. So I'm going to take that. Now this is the part where you would choose your encoder. You can choose Wirecast or you can choose Flash Media Live encoder or other encoders. I highly suggest that you use Wirecast. Very robust. Lots of tutorials everywhere on how to use it, and everything just works. So why not? So I'm going to go ahead and use Wirecast for YouTube. And then I've already installed this, but this is where you would download and install your software. At this point, if I launch this software is where I might run into problems, but I do want to give you a bit of an overview, at least a static overview of what that looks like. So let's see here. Right here. There we go. So when you click on that link, it gives you options for the free version or the studio version or the pro version. The free version is just fine, but it's gonna not allow you to do certain things, and you can check it out by just going to that link and seeing what the differences are. But when you go ahead and choose the free version, you can get started right away at no cost. And this is kind of what you'll see. It wants to know what your settings are. It wants you to sign in to YouTube to authenticate. So you're going to see this window, and when you click the authenticate button, it's going to let you go ahead, choose your destination for YouTube. YouTube will pop up a window and ask you, do you want to allow this program to link with your YouTube? And you're going to say, yes, allow, and it'll fill in all this event situation or event information. Part of what I couldn't show you here was when I create this, there's something called the control room, and that is where you're going to create your event. I'd love to be able to go into depth on some of this stuff, but I know I'm running out of time. But you'll have to trust me on this for now. There's a control room that you can use to create your event, and that's what ties in with the software and populates this event right here that you see. So after that's done, and you go to your control room, this is what you're going to see as the watch page. It'll be a link inside the control room to your watch page. When you click that link, this is what you'll see. And it gives you a nice little countdown when the event's going to start. And then on the back side there, hopefully you can see this. This is the actual control room that I wasn't able to show you, but this is what it looks like. You actually hit this preview button, and when you do that, you're on the air. So it sounds like a lot, but it's actually very simple and straightforward. After you run through it just a couple of times, you'll be very comfortable.
Let me ask you a dumb question. Where do you plug the camera in, and how do you connect all the hardware to the computer?
Not a dumb question at all. Now, that's going to depend on what you're using. For our setup in this basic tutorial, we're just going to be using probably a webcam, and it's just going to be USB. So all we do is plug in the camera into the one of the USB ports on the computer. As long as your computer sees the camera, then you're not going to have a problem with this being viewed by this software. A lot of cameras have the audio built into them, and so then that is configurable as well. If you want to use a different microphone than the one that's built into your webcam, you can also change that and adjust those settings as well. And I wish I had more time. I'd go into that, but very easy to use. It's pretty much plug and play.
Okay, so there is the option though to be recording your audio separately from your and do you recommend that? Will that be generally a better scenario than the camera audio?
I'm sorry, did you repeat that? I lost a little bit of signal.
Would it be better to record audio separately in general?
There are times when it can be, especially when you want to be sure that the post event is something that is of a very high quality. It can make a lot of sense to do that. But it adds a level of complexity if you're a first-time user and you're just starting out, which is kind of the scope of this, I think. So I would definitely stick with it as is as you're first exploring the software.
Okay, cool. So we're going to wrap up here in the next few minutes, but I'm going to pull one question we had from the blog here. I wanted to just briefly touch on the promotion of the event after you've done it. Outside of social media best practices, how could you use what's existing in the live stream event to do a good job with that?
Well, you want to make sure you're on Google Plus for sure. A great way to promote this and cross-promote that is going to be being a Google Plus member. And one of the things that Google Plus allows you to do is post live events. And you can post an event and you can advertise that event before and after. So that's going to be a really, really big help. And let me see if I can post a link for you. Yeah. Let me go ahead and post a link for you that I think will be very helpful. Here we go. Everybody see that? Definitely
Okay.
utilize that. It will very much help you with the post. Also, I want to mention annotations. Uh, After your event,
Mhm.
Google automatically archives what you've recorded live, and you have the ability to be able to put annotations on. And Google was nice enough to allow us to be able to link to external links. That means that you can have people subscribe through those links to your channel, to your feed. And that can be a really big boon.
Cool. One question somebody had was, would you live stream for an animated content channel? So if somebody's main stuff, or a strategy question, is animation, what can you imagine that they might live stream?
What type of animation? Do we have any detail?
I actually don't know the details on that, but maybe to contextualize, one suggestion might be interviews with the animators, you know, or I'd love to hear, from you, Ben, too, if you have sort of additional ideas of ways you could engage that audience. I don't know how you could live something animated, but
If I can contribute, actually, we've done a couple
sure.
on the platform where we've done a preview of an animation, or I think one great thing to do as well is behind the scenes. So a lot of people want to see the animation process. So if you can maybe do a live stream of, or include that in your program of what went on to make the animation, I think that's something a lot of people are curious about. And that way they feel like they're getting content that they wouldn't necessarily have access to just by watching the animation itself.
Right, and
That's cool.
I don't know if this fits into the animation realm. I think it does, at least tangentially. There's a lot of gamers out there using Twitch, and there's a great integration that YouTube has with Twitch now. And I mentioned annotations a little bit ago, but if you're streaming via Twitch, you can actually have live annotations in your feed. So that can be really great for product placement or other information that you want to give users as they're watching. You can have different call out spots on the video, call attention to things that you may think are important to them. So that's a great feature.
Cool. And welcome to Joe. Joe, can you hear us all right? You got any questions you want to throw out there?
No, I'm sorry, I'm really, really late, so I just thought I'd catch the tail end of whatever you're coming up with. So
Oh,
Well,
sorry
hi,
about
that's
that.
okay.
Joe.
We've recorded a cast, so you can watch what we've gotten. When you joined our hangout, what was the question, or what are you thinking about live streaming? What was kind of on your mind?
Well, I'm a real estate agent, so I was hoping to maybe live stream something from like an open house or maybe from an event that I've got a couple of events that are coming up, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So Ben, let's take Joe's case study here in terms of an event that he wants to promote for his real estate business. How would you approach that from a planning perspective and from an execution perspective?
Wow, great question. I actually have a friend that's in real estate that uses live streaming for his open houses and archives some things that he does live streaming for video on demand, so that people can learn about what's going on in the market, about how the different shifts might occur on a weekly basis with inventory, et cetera, et cetera. And it's really worked out for him very well, and he's continuing to do that. So I really think you can leverage it. It will take a little planning on your part. I don't know, how computer savvy are you?
I'm pretty savvy.
All right. So do you have a dedicated computer that you could use, something that has a good CPU in it and a good broadband connection that you can use?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Because those things will be critical. you want to make sure you're not using an underpowered machine because it can really cause a lot of stutters and a lot of different problems. Laptops can be really good if you've got a really fast one, but they can also be really, really detrimental to a live event. So, I mean, whenever you can, go ahead, Mike.
Ben, and on that, how about a laptop?
Right, and that's what I'm referring to right now. Laptops can work, but they need to be a high-end laptop. If you're using an older laptop, it can bog down and cause problems. Your CPU may not be able to keep up. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do is just make sure you don't have a bunch of software running at the same time that you're trying to run the software for the event. So there's a lot of preparation that you'll need to do just to clean off everything, make sure you're running the fastest things, making sure that you've rebooted. That's a huge one, believe it or not, Joe, because the memory starts to get bogged down, and sometimes you put the laptops in sleep mode. So if you're using a laptop and you've used it in sleep mode a lot, you get used to doing that. You just hit it and power it on so you don't have that long boot up process. But what you've got is a lot of stuff in your memory that you need to dump because it can cause problems during the cast. So what you'd want to do is go ahead and make sure you reboot that laptop. But that's just some of the things that the more simple things that you need to do before the live broadcast. But then you've got to think about what is the content. And when you do these open houses, I know I've been to a lot of them, and a lot of it's showing the house.
Right.
So, now you're thinking about movement. Movement and live streaming, not so good sometimes.
Right. Gotcha.
So you want to actually plan this out so that whatever you're going to present is probably in a more stationary place, or plan it out so you have multiple cameras so you can switch feeds without having to move the camera around.
Well, one of the things that I just mentioned open house because that's the first thing that came to mind at the moment, but I would love to be able to do like I started doing these Monday videos on, update on the market kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like to see if I could start doing that, and I could do that in a stationary place.
Perfect.
And I can, use graphs and charts and that sort of thing, and see if I can attract an audience.
That's a perfect use for this, I think. And I mean, I know you came in late. I talked a little bit about Wirecast. There's a free version of this. It's an encoder that allows you to stream on YouTube. That you can choose as you're setting this up. The free version is kind of locked down, but if you look at it as an investment and you go for the pro version, which is $199, no, I don't work for them, but it unlocks a bunch of features that are very powerful in letting you set up what you were talking about. What do you want to have behind you? Do you want a green screen and maybe key out and put stuff behind you? Do you want to have charts and statistics? It allows multiple sources, so you can have a PowerPoint on one side and you can have yourself in a little video window talking in the other. It does all of that stuff. So yeah, it's a good way to go.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so kind of wrap up here. Once he's got his camera set up, he's got what he's going to shoot. How long should your live stream be? Is this a 60-minute thing, a 90-minute thing, a 3-minute thing? I mean, how long can people join in for this experience with you?
Well, believe it or not, my understanding currently is that you could have it broadcast for 8 hours. The thing is, if you're trying to capture that content for archival purposes, it's not guaranteed to capture past 4. So, you want to make sure that you keep it under 4 if you need to use it post.
Okay. And then optimal time, would you recommend?
Okay, yeah, and that's a different question altogether because, again, we talked a little bit earlier, Joe, about viewer engagement, audience engagement. It's critical. All the technical stuff that I know and all the technical stuff I could talk about aren't as important as keeping your audience engaged. So you don't want to go too long. You got to know your audience. This is part of the promotion part. When you start to invite people to this event, you got to know your target audience. What are they interested in? Where do they hang out? What kind of tweets are they? Are you reading their tweets? Are you retweeting their tweets to show them that you're interested in them and they have buy-in to your event? And knowing the kind of buzzwords they use, and what are they talking about? What's trending in real estate right now? And when you know that, you can kind of cater it to that. You say, okay, these people are really hungry for this information, so I know if I have a longer segment on this part, it'll be fine. You know what I mean? So
I think
it's a
that's
really
a great. Yeah, I think that's a great way to wrap up, because what we sometimes think about with live streaming is just the question of the technical, but really you're talking human connection and making sure that you satisfy an audience with the content. So having a real clear strategy of what to say and how to say it is as important as making sure that you can get it said. So Ben, thanks so much. You're really a great teacher and enthusiastic about what you do. Joe, thanks for joining us live. And we had over eight people watching us on our side, so that's good as well. Nadine, thanks for joining us from the YouTube side. And we will have Ben's course up in the next, hopefully, couple months. Thanks, Ben. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I'll even consider putting some real estate in there if you're going to be there, Joe.
I will.
Great.
All right, guys. Well, have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you in the course live. Take care, and check out creatorup.com.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.